Hello from a rainy day here in West Africa. My name is Becky. I work as a missionary here in this beautiful country, and it is my joy to be able to encourage you from this incredible book again this week, just for 10 minutes or so, to see what God may be saying to us this week through his word. Now, if you watched last week's video, you'll know that we talked about rest, about the importance of taking time to stop, especially if we're wanting to know what direction we should be walking in, especially if we're looking for a little bit of guidance for which way to turn in our lives. But I think that rest is something that we're often not the best at. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. Even when I do take a moment to stop, to do nothing, I feel like there's always a thought in the back of my head that I should be doing something, I should be achieving something, or otherwise there are just the endless distractions. You know, I'll sit down and think, right, I'm gonna have a really good quiet time, get into the word, I'm gonna pray and listen, and then my phone beeps, or somebody knocks at the door, or a thought drops into my head, yes, but shouldn't you really be doing this? It might just be me, but I find that in this fast-paced world of ours, taking time to stop and to be still is actually a really, really difficult concept. Now, there's a verse that I've always loved when it comes to this idea of rest, this idea of being still, and it's found in Exodus chapter 14, but just a little bit of background before we get there. See, the Israelite people at this point in their story had just left the nation of Egypt. They had just seen God's incredible power, plagues which had decimated one of the most prosperous kingdoms in the world. The Israelites had even plundered their Egyptian neighbors. They went from being a people who were in slavery, a people with nothing, to a wealthy nation walking out of that country. But now the Israelites are facing the Red Sea, and it is impossible for them to move forward. It's impossible. There is an ocean there. They can't move on. There is nowhere to go. It is a dead end. And worse, the Egyptians are coming. Pharaoh and his army are approaching behind them. They are trapped between an ocean and an army with nowhere to turn. And the Israelite people are terrified. What do we do here? It feels like all hope is lost. How do we get ourselves out of this situation? What action can we possibly take to overcome in this place? And that could sound a little bit familiar, because I wonder if you've ever felt like you've reached a bit of a dead end at some point in your life. Maybe you felt like you were going the right way. You felt like God told you that this was the direction, this was the career path, this was whatever it was that you were supposed to be doing, and yet now nothing is happening. And it seems like the way forward is impossible and impassable, and you don't know what to do. Maybe you're feeling opposition against what you should be doing. Maybe you're wondering if you're even in the right place, what you need to be doing where you are. Well, you are not alone if you've ever asked those kind of questions, if you've ever felt that way. I have definitely been there. And I know many people have been in that situation too, just like the Israelites. And that's when this amazing verse happens. See, this is what Moses says to the Israelite people, and I just love it. Moses says, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." It's a beautiful verse. It's a beautiful promise. The Lord will fight for you. All you need to do is take action All you need to do is complete a project, build a bridge. No, all you need to do is be still. It's through that stillness, it's in that place of rest, of standing firm, that you will see the deliverance of the Lord, where God will enter the scene and achieve something that you simply could not do on your own. A solution to an impossible problem begins in a place of stillness and rest. But the story doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop with the Israelites putting their feet up, doing nothing, and that's the end of it. Immediately after Moses reassures the Israelite people with those incredible words, God himself starts speaking. And he says this: the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the Israelites to move on." Wait just a moment there. Are we supposed to be still? Or are we supposed to move? Do we wait for God to act, standing still, standing firm? Or do we need to get involved? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because those two verses are right next to each other. Be still and move on. The Amplified version of the Bible for these verses can help us a little bit, because it says that Moses said to the people, "Do not be afraid. Take your stand. Be firm and confident and undismayed, and see the salvation of the Lord, which he will accomplish for you today. For those Egyptians whom you have seen today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you, while you only need to keep silent and remain calm." In the stillness, in the rest, we recognize that we can be confident and we can be undismayed, knowing that our salvation is from the Lord, knowing that he is the God who can work the impossible. When times are hard and it all feels a little bit too much, the temptation can be to act like the Israelites in that place, shouting and complaining and focusing all of our attention on the situation, all of our attention on the problem, and coming up with solutions that are not helpful at all. Like, I know, let's go back to slavery because surely that will be better. That's not a good solution, Israelites. But in that moment of panic, in that moment of dismay, in that moment where your confidence fades away, those are the kind of solutions that our brains come up with, and we run around in the wrong directions and we say, what do we do here? And we try and come up with ways to fix it that are wrong and unhelpful. Instead, what we need to do is to remain calm, silently trusting in the God who is able to do all things, the God who is master of the impossible. You need only to be still to see the Lord's mighty hand at work in your life. That is true. But stillness doesn't necessarily mean inaction. It means taking the time, yes, to recognize God's might, putting to death those anxieties and fears that will take over if we let them, and being ready to move the moment he says it's time to go, ready to move in the right direction, not running around like headless chickens trying to sort it all out ourselves. And it can feel a little bit like a contradiction, right? But we can be at rest. We can be still and yet simultaneously be moving. It is entirely possible for us to carry that place of rest and stillness with us as we go about the essential tasks of our day. And often a time of stopping is needed, a time of complete stillness, to get our heads into the right space, to remind us who the Lord is, to be thankful for all that he has done, to trust in all he is going to do. But then we move. Then we take action. Then we enter the fight, knowing that our victory is already assured. Even if the way that God is telling us to move is toward an impossible obstacle, we can trust him, knowing that he can do immeasurably more than we can ever ask or imagine, knowing he can make a way through the sea, knowing he can halt the army that's on our backs. Our God can do anything. And when we move from that place of rest, from that place of stillness, being confident and firm and undismayed, that is when our fears fade away and we recognize that everything we need is in God, that he is fighting for us, and we need only to be still. Thank you so much for joining me today for that thought from the Bible. I'll be back on Wednesday next week with another video, so I will see you then.